everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny, and we're going to talk some football. But before we do that, if you did not get a chance to check out the OW Sports podcast last night on Facebook Live, make sure you check out the recording. I was actually a co-host with my boy Vince and my boy Stevie D. We talked about the Jets, we talked about the Bills, we talked about potential playoff matchups. We also gave our prediction for postseason awards. So make sure you check us out. Right now we have a recording on the OW Sports YouTube channel. We also have a shared copy on the OW Sports Facebook page. And if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, I also have a shared copy on that as well. Check it out. But more importantly, every Wednesday, 8 p.m., Facebook Live, OW Sports Podcast, we're going to be doing it up. Make sure you come out and support your boy. Now, let's talk Jets. And I'm not talking about Jets versus Patriots. So calm down. I'm not going to waste your time with that. Because realistically, Jets, Patriots on Sunday, I really don't care what happens. I don't. I am just ready for this season to be over if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I know there's a lot of fans that want the Jets to lose because it secures them a top 10 draft pick. In fact, if the season ended right now, they'd be picking number 8. So if they lose, they could do no worse than 8. I get that. I understand that. There are some Jet fans that want the Jets to win because supposedly this is Bill Belichick's last game. They want to send them out with a loss. I get that too. Personally, I don't care about that. I would have preferred to beat him years ago when it really mattered. Not now in a meaningless game. So realistically, I think it's in the best interest for the Jets to lose. But I'm not going to sit here and say I'm rooting for them to lose. Whatever happens, happens. Just play the young kids and let the chips fall where they may. I don't care about this game. What I do want to talk about, though, is something that I was thinking about earlier this week, and that's the Zach Wilson situation. Because I find that very intriguing. And it's only fitting. It's only fitting that the last time we potentially see Zach Wilson in a Jets uniform was when he walked off into the locker room right before the half during that Miami game. It's only fitting that this roller coaster ride ends right there because he's been ruled out. He's not going to play this week against the Patriots. He didn't play last week. Supposedly he's still in concussion protocol. That game against Miami, first half, he took an absolute pounding. Probably one of the worst offensive line performances I've ever seen by a Jet team. Walks off right before the half. Jets say that supposedly he was going back there because he was dehydrated. Later on, they change the story and say that he's out with an apparent head injury. Then the next day, Robert Saleh comes out and says he suffered a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. Zach Wilson's mom comes out on Instagram, says his son suffered a concussion in the first half, and he played through it, had blurred vision, blah, blah, blah. And then here we are today. And that is how Zach Wilson ends his Jet career. Because you got to think he's not coming back. And realistically speaking, I think Zach himself will tell you, if he was sitting right here, he'd tell you himself, he's glad this is over. He needs a fresh start. I think he needs one. I think the fans need one. I think the Jets need one. But how the hell did this happen again? Yet again, another quarterback that the Jets ruined. This isn't a coincidence that the Jets, this is where quarterbacks come to die. Young quarterbacks. In fact, if ruining a quarterback was a criteria to win a Super Bowl, we'd have more championships than Tom Brady. Because that's how many quarterbacks we've ruined throughout the years. You name them. Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, now Zach Wilson. They can't all be bad. This is crazy. This is an organizational issue. If I was a young quarterback entering the draft, I'd tell my agent, anywhere but the Jets. And it doesn't matter who the GM or the coach is. Whoever it is, they come here. We don't develop them properly. 3 years, they're gone, and we start this whole thing with the hamster wheel cycle all over again. Luckily for us, Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback next year. For as long as that lasts. If not, we'd be talking about who we're going to draft at quarterback in this draft. Starting all over. Same thing all over again. How the hell did this happen? I was thinking about it. And there's a bunch of things that went wrong, 5 that jump out to me right off the bat. Because realistically, if we're being honest, Zach Wilson was a project from day one. Most Jet fans didn't even know who Zach Wilson was before the combine. Let's keep it real. I didn't, and I watch college football. And when you watch college football, you tend to hear about all these college quarterbacks that are good, that could potentially enter the NFL draft. I didn't know who Zach Wilson was. He played for BYU. I'm an Ohio State fan. Then all of a sudden the combine came, his pro day. Everybody was wowed because he made this fantastic throw. You know what throw I'm talking about. And if you don't know, look it up on YouTube. Zach Wilson's combine throw. You should know if you're a Jet fan. It was all over ESPN for like 2 or 3 days. Rolls to his left, throws across his body 60 yards down the field, hits a receiver during his pro day, no defense, no pads. And the entire league was like, wow, we got to have this kid. Meanwhile, again, how many quarterbacks in that situation can't make the exact same throw in the combine? It happens all the time. Quarterbacks who aren't valued as high will raise their value during the combine based on certain things like this. And right then and there, he became a hot commodity, right? Everybody knew Trevor Lawrence was going first, but who was going to be that next guy? He elevated himself to the next guy. But when you're playing against competition at BYU, it's a little bit different. It's not like you're playing against some of these top powerhouse schools like Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Clemson. So you knew damn well, if you were being honest, that this was a kid you didn't know about, but you did exactly what I did. After that throw, you're like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Let me start looking at his tape. So I went on YouTube and I looked up Zach Wilson's BYU highlights, and they look good. But again, this is college we're talking about. And all of his highlights, he's sitting back there in the pocket for 5-6 seconds, dissecting the defense, throwing the ball down the field. I mean, he has all the physical traits. That's not a question. But how is that going to translate into the NFL? We didn't think about that. We just wanted a quarterback, a savior. And then we got him. And if we were being honest with ourselves, we all knew he was a project. I knew he was a project. Jets probably knew it too. But they went about things the wrong way because that's usually what they do. And here we are. They thrust this kid into action far too early. And because of that, he failed. 5 things. There's 5 things that I think that the Jets did wrong that caused this whole Zach Wilson experiment to fail. Number 1, they coddled him. And the Jets aren't the only team that makes this mistake. They draft these kids in the first round and they give them the keys to the franchise and they say, here you go, it's your job, go out there and play football. And for everyone that succeeds early, there are another 6 or 7 after that fail. Why? Because the transition from college to the NFL is like night and day. The NFL is a totally different game, and a lot of these guys are mentally prepared for what they are going to endure. Physically, yeah. All these guys have the physical traits. They can all throw the ball 50 yards down the field. They can all make every throw. For the most part, they're all pretty much mobile. But it's the mental part of the game where they struggle. Reading defenses, breaking down defenses, game film, being a leader. Quarterback has to be the leader, right? That takes time. It's different. You're not facing college players anymore, college talent. Now you're facing NFL caliber players. They're faster, they're stronger, they're more instinctive. These defensive linemen are beasts. The offensive coordinators and the defensive coordinators are smart. The game plans that they devise, all the different schemes they throw at you, it's tough. It's a lot more tougher than what he was seeing against competition at BYU, I can tell you that. And if he was here, he'd probably tell you the same thing, night and day. But no. Not only did the Jets give him the keys, when he probably should have been sitting, they coddle him. That's even worse. No competition whatsoever. It's your job, rookie. And again, the Jets aren't the only team that does that. And I wonder why teams do this because, like I said, more often than not, the kids fail because of it. If you're an old head like me and you used to watch football in the 80s, you know that's how it was done. They draft these quarterbacks young. They sit 2-3 years behind a veteran quarterback until it's their turn. And by that time, again, they're mentally ready to take the reins. Now it's like, God forbid, you let a quarterback sit. It's okay. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre. How'd that work out? Even Patrick Mahomes, he sat a year behind Alex Smith. How'd that work out? Worked out pretty well to me. Not everybody's going to be C.J. Stroud. Not everybody's going to be Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, some of these young guys that came into the league and they were ready. They were generational type talents. He was a project, and they should have realized that. These are football people supposedly running the franchise in the front office. You should have realized that. Coddled him. You didn't make life easy for him at all. He should have been coached harder. He should have had to earn his spot like everybody else because that's how football is. Guys going out there, they're competing for a starting job. Meanwhile, this kid has no competition whatsoever. Not his fault. That's usually how it works with the young quarterbacks, again, that are drafted high, but it's not fair to me. I think it does more hurt, more harm than anything else. And it's clear, mentally, he also lacked personal accountability. He was immature. It showed last year, right? After the Patriot game, when he refused to take accountability for, poor play, team quit on him. They benched him. They started wearing Mike White t-shirts. Why do you think it's that? It wasn't because he was playing poorly. It was because they were done with him. He was probably arrogant, spoiled brat, didn't want to take any type of personal accountability. The team was like they were done with him. That was clear because teams don't normally do that, especially when the player is still on the team. Wear t-shirts to support another player who took his job. You don't see that too often. That was number one. Which leads to number two. He should have been redshirted his first year. Why? He should have had a veteran quarterback in there that he can learn the position from. A quarterback that has been there, has done that, has been in his same shoes, has played NFL games, knows how to prepare like a professional, knows how to break down film like a professional, knows how to be a leader, not just in the locker room, but in the huddle. The mental part is where most rookies fail. They should have had a veteran guy that he can lean on, or if you were going to make him a starter, a veteran guy that can push him to be even better. That's another thing. They never wanted a guy in there to push him. They wanted to make life easy for him. They had Mike White in there, who's another young guy, but again, a guy that was threatening to take his job. When he was playing poor, the fans were cheering for Mike White. The Jets didn't want that. They wanted to take that distraction away, right? They wanted to make life as easy as possible for Zach so he could say to himself, wow, I don't have any competition behind me. I could just go out there and play football. Well, how the hell did that work out? Sometimes it's not a bad thing to coach a kid hard. Let him think to himself, if I don't play hard, this guy's going to take my job. They're going to pull me and I'm going to lose my starting job. It's never a bad thing. They should have had a veteran guy so that he can learn from. A lot of people say, well, he had Joe Flacco last year. That was last year. Let's be honest. Joe Flacco's interest was not to be here to mentor Zach Wilson. In fact, I see Joe Flacco this year, the way he's playing, he looks like he's re-energized. I mean, I didn't see that Joe Flacco last year with us. I saw Joe Flacco that looked like he had one foot out the door. He looked like he wasn't interested in playing, and he just wanted to collect a check, finish the season out, and go and retire. Maybe that was partly due to the coaching staff, the players. I don't know, but he seems like a different player here, which tells you a lot about the situations being a lot different between the Browns and the Jets. Something to think about. Either way, he wasn't put in that position for that. They needed to get somebody that was going to relish that role. And there are plenty of guys out there that they could have found that could have done that, which leads into my third point on how this whole thing fell apart is that the offensive line has been piss poor for 3 seasons. And whether a lot of fans want to say it's not Joe Douglas's fault or it is, I seem to think that it's kind of stuck in the middle because I don't blame Joe Douglas for trying. He's tried to draft some guys. It just hasn't worked out. He's tried to sign some guys. Hasn't worked out. But again, When a position consistently fails year after year, who's responsible for that? The guy that's putting the players in place, the GM. He has to find a way to change what he's doing to make it right. He's drafting guys. He drafted Becton. That hasn't worked out. After one good season, Becton missed 2 years. Now this year he was playing. He was poor. I'm sure he's not going to be back. Another wasted pick there. Elijah Vera-Tucker, player with a lot of promise, Pro Bowl potential. They start moving him around all over the line. Maybe that has something to do with all these injuries. But here you go, 2 years in a row, season-ending injuries. You got to wonder, is he ever going to be the player that they drafted him to be? Max Mitchell, Joe Tippmann. I mean, he's tried to draft some guys. I give him that. He's tried to sign guys. Laken Tomlinson, give him this big contract. Hadn't worked out. He just hadn't been good. Then there's a bunch of other guys, Dwayne Brown, a bunch of other guys that he brings in that are either old or he brings them in at bargain basement deals. When you shop at Walmart, you get what you pay for. So again, he's made some attempts, but it hasn't worked out. And then this year, it's almost like he took his foot off the gas pedal and didn't try to plug in some holes on an offensive line that was decimated. If you want a young quarterback to succeed, at the very least, try your hardest to put a good offensive line in front of him so that he can rely on a running game and he doesn't have to throw the ball under duress 45, 50 times. He can hand the ball off. He can work off play action, throw the ball 20, 21 times at tops. That's the only way you're going to give a young quarterback a chance to succeed in this league. And they have failed on that. Again, I'm not saying Joe Douglas didn't try, but reality is, if the position continues to fail 3 years in a row, it's on the GM. That's the way it works, which brings me to point number 4. Not hiring an offensive coordinator who had experience, this is a key word I'm saying here, experience developing young quarterbacks. It's never a good idea for a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback, in my opinion, to hire a rookie coordinator to develop that quarterback. If I were a rookie head coach, I want a more experienced offensive coordinator I can lean on that will take that role and nurture this kid and try to help develop him. Mike LaFleur, rookie offensive coordinator. Robert Saleh, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. Again, can it work? DeMeco Ryans has proven it could work in Houston with the Texans and CJ Stroud, but how many other teams can you say that has worked on? Again, for every one that works, there's another 8, 9 that it doesn't work. So chances are, the odds, they don't look good. Should have went out there and got a coordinator with experience. And I know everybody's going to say, well, they had Greg Knapp and it was an unfortunate situation because he passed away. I get that. And who knows? Maybe if Knapp was here, it'd be a little bit different. But the fact is, unfortunately, he's not. And they did nothing to try to compensate for that. Mike LaFleur just didn't have the experience to be able to develop a young quarterback. And then you bring in Hackett. Hackett wasn't brought here to develop Zach Wilson. We all know that. Hackett was brought here to work with Aaron Rodgers. And then when he was thrust into that role to develop Zach Wilson, how did that work out? Not good. So that was a huge mistake by Robert Saleh. He should have done things differently instead of hiring a friend of his to be the coordinator to obviously nurture a young quarterback, knowing that he's a rookie himself. Point number 5, which takes me back to point number 1. The best thing would have been to redshirt Zach, right? But if he didn't do it his first year, he should have done it this year. He should have never played it down this year, whether Aaron Rodgers was healthy or not. And they'll sit there and tell you the plan was to redshirt him. Well, if the plan was to redshirt him, why would you make him the backup? How much sense does that make? If you want to redshirt the kid, you make him a third stringer, practice squad player, whatever it is, but you don't dress him. You bring in a veteran quarterback who in the event can play if Aaron Rodgers got hurt. What they did was they put their eggs in one basket and they banked on Aaron Rodgers playing the entire season, Zach Wilson sitting behind him as the quarterback to learn from one of the best that ever do it. And then next year, if needed, he'd be more in a better position to be able to play. How'd that work out for you? Did you never not think that Aaron Rodgers at 39 years old could get hurt? Even if he didn't 4 plays in, maybe 4 games in, 5 games in? You felt in that short period amount of time that Zach Wilson would have had enough mentoring from Aaron Rodgers to make him the starter on a playoff caliber team? That's just poor thinking by the front office and the coaching staff. Just very, very poor. You should have planned better. Veteran quarterback. So that the event Rodgers goes down, you still don't have to play Zach. And even better, Zach can see how a backup quarterback operates in tough situations. That would have been super, super beneficial for him as well, as far as the development. Working with those type of guys. So again, they figured, well, he had 2 months of OTAs and training camp and hard knocks and some adequate play, some decent play against some second and third stringers in the preseason. He's all right. Because as soon as Aaron Rodgers went down after that game, they announced Zach Wilson as the starter for the rest of the year, which I thought was mistake number one for Saleh. Why would you do that? Let the kid earn it. If you didn't let him earn it his first season, you should have let him earn it now. We'll see. We'll see how he plays week to week. We'll take it week to week. And if he puts together a string of 3 or 4 straight games, then you can reward him with the job. But why would you hand it to him? Why? Because they coddled him. They coddled him from day one all the way to the end. All the way to the way they handled this whole injury and all the rumors about Zach Wilson not wanting to play. It was just, it's just terrible. The Jets just dropped the ball big time on this. And it's, listen, you just got to be glad that it's over with. And again, if I'm Zach Wilson, I'm saying the exact same thing. I'm glad this is over with. I need to get out of here. I need a fresh start. And realistically, I don't wish the kid no ill will. I hope he goes to another team and goes into a good solid coaching staff, a good foundation, and he finds his way. I think he has a good skill set. He could probably be a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-pro, but he has the ability and the skill set to be a good quarterback. But a lot of that has to do with him, and he has to mature and grow up and stop having mommy talk for him. Become a man on and off the field. Because trust me when I tell you, in a locker room full of NFL players, that matters. Anyway, those are my 5 reasons why I believe it all went down the tubes with the whole Zach Wilson experiment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I always love hearing everybody's feedback. And as always, if you're new to watching, please subscribe, man. Come back. Hang out with me in the hangout spot more often. This is how we do here. But as always, it's your boy Johnny, signing out from the hangout spot. Make sure you tune into the podcast next Wednesday, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live, OW Sports. And I'll talk to everybody soon.